Hello, everyone. A very happy new year to all of you. I wish you all success and happiness in your professional and personal lives this new year and the decade coming ahead. Welcome to the fourth session of our webinar series, Masters of Conversion, where you get to learn from the masterminds of winning website experiences. My name is Vipul, and I lead co-marketing for VWO, a full funnel experience optimization platform. Now, today I'm excited to be hosting two masters tonight. So our master's number one for tonight is Taran Nanda. He has been leading marketing for some of the top companies in the world like Cvent, RateGain, Bird Eye, and now he's the CEO and founder of AdCore Digital. Our second master for tonight is Arpit Srivastav, who is the marketing strategy and analysis manager at Publicis Sapient and has helped many Fortune 500 companies in achieving their marketing goals. It's great to have you here, guys.
Hi, Vipul. Yeah, good to have you.
Great to be here as well, Vipul. Thank you for hosting us.
Thanks for coming in, guys. So yeah, before I pass on this virtual mic to Arpit, I just want to inform every one of you that we have reserved 10 minutes at the end of this session for a Q&A section. So send in your questions whenever you have one using the questions panel in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll take them in the end. With that, Arpit, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Vipul. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are. A quick introduction. My name is Arpit, and I'm really excited to be part of this Master of Conversion series, which actually sounds like a degree. So, thank you, Vipul and VWO team, for hosting me for second time. I have over 13 years of experience, which is sort of a blend of marketing, data analytics, and experience optimization. And I'm currently working with Publicis Sapient, which is our digital transformation hub of Publicis Group. I am Adobe Certified Analytics and Audience Manager Business Practitioner, and have worked with a couple of B2B SaaS companies for over a decade. And in the last couple of years, I've been supporting some large enterprises to enable their digital transformation journey. So with that, I'll just pass it to Taran.
Thanks, Arpit. And myself, folks, my name is Taran Nanda, and I have been a career marketer for over 20 years now. I spent about 15 years of it working in the B2B space, primarily the technology companies, and wore various hats during those 15 years. And across the spectrum of marketing, be it product marketing, demand generation, marketing strategy, as well as the last few years, I have been working as the head of marketing for B2B organizations. And in 2019, I started my own growth marketing agency called AdCore Digital. So really, glad to be here. And without further ado, we'll get into the presentation. Okay, so the topic for today is full funnel optimization for B2B companies. Fairly lengthy, long topic. We could probably talk for hours on this, so we're going to try and do the best we can and leave you with some really good golden nuggets that you can actually practically use in your day-to-day marketing life. So, the first question that we ask ourselves is, what do we optimize for? And the most obvious answer, in everybody's minds is leads. And leads is absolutely a very, very important part of any business. But, is this the end goal? And, what are the key KPIs that are the most important for a B2B business? And when we look at that, the leads is, like I said, a leading edge. But what we really want to achieve is a very low cost of acquisition. We also want to make sure that the customer lifetime value that we are receiving from every customer is growing. the velocity at which we can produce revenue, or like time to revenue from once a lead enters our pipeline. And then obviously, like, the leads that we've generated, what is the close or conversion ratio that we're able to achieve from them? And every business wants revenue and they want growth. So yes, leads is the leading edge, but when you look under the covers, you see all these different metrics that are the most important for any B2B business. And you just can't be optimizing at the lead level. You have to optimize the entire funnel if you want to achieve the desired conversions as well as the desired results that you seek for your business. What I would like to do is use an analogy here. So all the marketers in the room, for a moment, forget that you're a marketer, but think about yourself as an air traffic controller. And all these leads are not leads, but airplanes. And your job as a marketer is to make sure that every lead lands safely and actually reaches its destination gate. So just like an air controller has the job of making sure that every plane lands safely and reaches the gate, as a marketer, I think that is one of the most important things we have to do is make sure that every lead that we are acquiring reaches a logical conclusion. And we'll talk more about it in later slides, but I want to kind of leave you guys with this thought as I hand it off to Arpit, who's going to walk us through some of the funnel and funnel economics.
Great, thanks, Ron. So I think we have seen this kind of funnel quite often, and probably some of you have one or two more or less stages around it. But essentially, on the top, you have visitors who are like anonymous users to your website that are driven through some of the marketing channel campaigns that you're running. And some of these actually raise their hand. They fill out some form that you have on the website. We can call that a stage as an inquiry. And uh, among these inquiries, there are certain leads that actually match your ideal customer profile. We'll talk about what exactly is the ideal customer profile. It essentially matches certain marketing and sales level, service level agreement that the two departments sort of agree on. And then these MQLs then turn into sales accepted leads, wherein probably somebody like a sales development representative who could be more closer to marketing sort of get in touch, and he sort of validates that this lead has certain prerequisites. It could be in terms of budget, in terms of authority, it could be in terms of the timeline they're looking for, and their actual need. So once that is done, it actually moves down to the SQL level, where probably you're talking about now some sort of a demo or actual meeting, and finally you're talking about the close one. So the deal is signed and deal done. So basically that's the funnel we all have seen. But like uh, is it like the stage where we stop? I would say big no, and here is why. So if you go to the next slide, so we also have something called post purchase funnel, and somehow um, most of the time it is sort of underrated. uh, so here you see there are again certain stages like purchase, adoption, retention, expansion, and advocacy. There are certain transactional factors to begin with, and once the deal is signed, and we have to ensure that those initial touch points, they are seamless. We'll talk about those stages, but in detail. So here the bigger question is how much marketing and the optimization that we're doing currently, that is actually dedicated to your existing customers. And that's where we talk about this post purchase funnel. And are we really basically measuring the entire customer experience post purchase? Do we have experimentation practices for our product? So typically we do have a marketing side where we do a lot of A/B testing, optimization. We drive for conversions. But at product level, are we doing something similar where the goals are a little different? Maybe we're now optimizing for customer satisfaction or lifetime value, those sort of things. So that's where we are coming from. And then if you combine these two, it turns out to be not a funnel but an it's like an hourglass. So one of the reasons we emphasized uh, that post purchase funnel is important is because we essentially know that it costs 7 times more to attract a new customer than to retain existing customer. So that's how it's pretty important that we focus um, and we know things to its entirety. The other thing is in terms of optimization and uh, doing A/B testing, it is little hard because it is basically multidisciplinary, which actually means that you got to know the data analytics, you got to know the certain industry facets, you got to know content writing, you should know some bit of qualitative and quantitative research, you got to know UX design, psychology, all that stuff, and more importantly you should have a business sense. So this hourglass actually gives you that bigger picture of the business to its entirety, wherein bringing leads and acquiring customers is important, but we always need hunters for the same. But what is equally important, that we also need farmers who further expand these accounts to repeat purchases, drive loyalty, and we should have a dedicated optimization program as well around the same. So now I'll just quickly pass it to Taran again to show you what sort of an impact it could bring in with some example if we talk about the full funnel optimization.
Thanks, Arpit. And so, folks, the what you see on the screen is really a, a kind of scenario wherein we have shown the top of the funnel, which is the up to the point of acquisition of a customer, from inquiries to MQLs to sales accepted to sales qualified, and then one business. And then the ASP is really the average sales price, and then the revenue that you're getting to. And if you think about it, these are like the 5 variables in the funnel. And it's how you optimize around these. And if I ask the people in the room, can we increase the inquiries by 10%? Or can we increase the number of MQLs that you're able to generate from those MQLs by 10%? Probably most of the people will raise their hand and say probably yes. If not 10, maybe we can achieve like closer to that. But the cumulative effect of having this view of the funnel broken down by the stages and running optimizations at each level. As you can see, in this example, we started with 10,000 inquiries. This is without optimization, and it results in a revenue of $33,000. And we are assuming like a 10% conversion at every stage. The numbers could vary if the conversion ratios are different, but this is just an example to show you the power of this 10%. But think about it, increasing inquiries by 10% should not be too hard if you're running some good A/B testing, as well as optimizing the traffic channels that you are using. And then comes the MQLs. In the MQLs, if you are, and we'll talk about some strategies to do that, but at every stage, a 10% optimization is possible. And what you're seeing on your screen right now is that by running 10% optimization at every stage, we're able to achieve $52,800 in revenue versus the 33,000. And what that really means is that our the power of 10% improvement is leading to 60% increase in revenue. So if I would have asked the question to the room, can we increase the revenue by 60% by just running optimization? The answer is probably no. But if we say that, can we increase 10% or achieve 10% optimization at every level of the funnel? The answer is most likely yes. So, the big thought here is that we have to break down the funnel and we have to look at every stage of the funnel and see what kind of interventions and optimizations we can run as marketers so that we can power those results. Arpit, why don't you, walk us through some of the approach and methodology one can take at looking at, the full funnel optimization?
Great. Yeah, sure. So we just saw the power of 10%, and the obvious question is, okay, that's great, but how do I start? So I think we got to approach this with more like a framework thinking, as we call it, and we can look into the key areas to sort of operationalize the full funnel optimization. And here I propose like 4 pillars to set the stage for full funnel optimization. So at the first, you have market, which essentially is your total addressable market, so that you have to clearly define. And some of its component include like clearly defining the ideal customer profile. We'll have some examples for the same, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You got to define the personas, because when it comes to B2B, it's not the one person who really takes the decision of buying or not buying. So you got to understand the entire buying committee, and sort of create those personas. Again, you have to have understanding of the entire customer journey, so that map needs to be there. And then you should also list certain challenges that these guys face, and that all these together uh, gives you a complete picture. The next thing is KPIs. I think Taran already touched around it. Amongst the key KPIs that we should really focus upon when it comes to B2B. But in addition to that, there's something which I call economic value at all stages. Because when it comes to B2C or a typical retail or e-commerce website, things happen on the website itself. The transaction happens on the website. So clearly you get the dollar impact, but there is a way, there is a methodology that we'll talk about, and we can sort of bring that thing into B2B world as well. And again, the KPIs should be based on the campaign objectives, and there should be some specific KPIs that will show you as examples as well. So once you have the market and KPI thing in place, we are now in a good position to do sort of a gap analysis, because you understand the market, you understand what's the current state in terms of the performance and all. We are in good shape to do a gap analysis, and we can see where are the gaps in terms of, is it these certain process gaps between the sales and marketing department? Are there certain leakages that we have identified across the funnels that we just saw? Do we have certain pool of contact missing in our database? Is there a content missing? Or we are seeing certain anomalies or certain gaps in our channel mix, in our marketing channel mix, in terms of the benchmark that we generally see for a specific industry. With this gap analysis, the next obvious step would be sort of building a robust roadmap, wherein you're aligning the personas, content, channel, and offers across stages. We got to create a experimentation roadmap. That itself is a huge topic, probably for some later webinar. And basically around the database enhancements and enrichment. So while we know the buying committee, we know our account penetration, are there gaps? Are we missing out certain important roles that should be there, and we are not reaching out to them? So that should be there. And there could be certain process optimization that we can think of in terms of SDR, who sort of acts as a glue between sales and marketing. So holistically, we have to think, and then lastly, one of the important thing is product analytics driven marketing, which essentially means that you create uh, user experience journey into which opportunities and the transactions are thoughtfully sort of part of product itself. It's embedded in the product itself. So the optimization thing is there in the product thinking as well. So let's move on to the next one. Sorry. Yeah. So in terms of the framework, we also talked about the customer profile. I think uh, sort of a narrow and clearly identified ideal customer profile is critical ingredient in your optimization process. And here is again sort of a framework that you can extend on your side depending upon the kind of industry, kind of product and solution that you have. But there are essentially like four components again to define that. First is your account attributes. So let's say, for example, we are basically targeting B2B with a revenue of 10 to $100 million, and then they should have a marketing budget of 3 to 15 million dollars. And then we identifying the buying committee. It could be like four people, so people who are sort of managing the marketing. There could be a guy who is sort of more of a data scientist, a person who owns the entire marketing technology stack, and the head of marketing. It could be your typical buying committee. And the third component, which is very important, is what really matters to these guys: the motivation. And we already know that motivation is one of the biggest factors that influence your conversions. So having a fair understanding for each persona is critical, and you should definitely document these things. And finally is the value prop, is the value you're trying to propose, and it should actually align with each of these roles that are there in the buying committee. So let's say marketer is actually looking for a one-stop solution. So a platform play could be a value prop that we propose for marketer, but a CMO maybe is looking for some view that can clearly define the return on investment. So accordingly, our value prop will change. And again, this is not something written on rock. It is something we should be flexible enough to test and optimize. All right. So I think the other thing I mentioned in our initial full funnel optimization framework was the economic value. So I know this slide looks little busy, but I'll just try to make it a little simple. So basically, what is happening here? I've just taken a hypothetical example wherein, let's say, a website has 100,000 visitors that coming in, and let's assume that uh, there are like 5,000 inquiries that happen, and in terms of form fill, and in each of those subsequent funnel stages, MQS and SALs and SQLs, like there is a 30% conversion that's happening. So essentially, we end up with 40 deals that have been signed, and let's assume that the contract value is, let's say, $10,000. So basically, we have a closed one revenue of $400,000. So we can basically say here, in this scenario, we have $400,000 worth revenue and happened, and that actually is being influenced by 100,000 visitors that came in. And if that's a simple math, so economic value at visitor level on the top is $4, and accordingly you can do the economic value against each of those stages. And so here, why it is important? Because we already know that, for example, in B2C world, we have revenue per visitor. So it's a metric equivalent to that in B2B world, and it also helps you give some context, like if you have these numbers in place, you have now fair understanding like how much you can invest in terms of cost across these stages. A typical visitor is worth how much of dollars. So that's how you can plan out your marketing spend, and it becomes a great tool to optimize and also sort of monitor on ongoing basis.
Yeah, so I would like to add that having this view is very important, and it seems like it is complex to create or calculate. It really is not, especially like the economic value of your visitors and inquiries is because those numbers every organization pretty much has, and then the resulting revenue, we know that. Because the beauty of looking at it at this level is that it provides both a micro as well as a macro view. So at the micro level, you need that, that every lead that is coming in, what is its worth. And at the macro level, you can think about the scale and opportunities that you could drive if you kind of created the right kind of channel mix, if you created the right kind of traffic, if you created the right kind of investment into your marketing channels. And this also is a great way for getting doing your budget planning as well. So I think it's though it was primarily applied in the e-commerce world, but I think it has a really, really strong business case to be used in the B2B space as well.
Yep.
And the other thing which happens is like, as you do the optimizations, these numbers would move up and down and like the resultant impact. So for example, if you could increase the resulting revenue, like we talked about the full funnel optimization earlier, if you could increase the revenue by 50% and take it to 600K, all of a sudden, your economic value of your visitor looks far more attractive at that point. So I think because then the economic value becomes $6 because now you're generating 600K. And not just that, if you look at the lifetime value of that lead, and the example that Arpit gave, he has, I believe, the assumption that the lead is going to be there, the customer is going to be there for 3 years, so 10K a year subscription, generating 30K in lifetime value. Now the $1 lifetime value from the 40 deals is like 1,200K or $1.2 million. And if you look at that, then it becomes even more impressive. So I think when you are doing your analysis, important to understand the lifetime value and understanding the economic value of each lead. And obviously you can run these analytics by channel, by campaign, by industry, by segment, and kind of do all kinds of optimizations based on the insights that you get from that. Back to you, Arpit.
Yeah, and the basically the other school of thought is if in terms of the customer acquisition cost and lifetime value, if we see that ratio, that also gives you some sense. So let's say uh, you are basically having a ratio, let's say 1:7, and then that essentially means that probably there could be a room to invest more on marketing and based on the organization goals. So monitoring it is important, as well as the influence of each of those metrics at each stages. They have impact across the funnel. All right, so I'll again pass it to Taran.
Thanks, Arpit. So I think we talked about the optimizations and the importance of it. And initially, Arpit had given us a framework that we need to have like, content and positioning strategy in place. So I'll walk you guys through like, the different stages of the funnel and the nurtures and the type of content that is relevant at those stages. So, we have the obvious top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. But, I would like to also talk about post-purchase as well as the remarketing. So on the top of the funnel, you obviously want to have like thought leader type of content, drive brand awareness, and have like content that is like that works as lead magnets that people want to engage with and has like low friction forms that people would fill so that you can start collecting those leads. And then as you are nurturing them in the middle of the funnel, you want to have like industry specific positioning. So if you are working with, if you are targeting different industries, make sure that you have industry specific content, and guide them to evaluation. The content should be guiding them to a solid, a sound evaluation, and make them feel like they're making a good decision. And then obviously the solution, focused and the ROI that they would be getting by implementing that solution. And as they move in further in the sales funnel, the bottom of the funnel should be the ROI that they can be driving for their company by choosing that product, any kind of case studies from existing customers, as well as like press releases or PR and analyst relation air cover that you can provide in terms of research as well as third-party validation that they're getting through PR and AR. And that's kind of your typical sales funnel. And then you have like your post-purchase. So if they did become a customer, you want to make sure that their first impression or the onboarding support is amazing. So, and marketing has a role to play in there because a lot of time customers are looking for digital onboarding. They are really not looking for people to guide them through. So if you can help your post sales teams or your customer service teams create really engaging programs, create online communities, build the proper documentation, and make sure that there are channels available for the customers to get the answers when they need, and make all this available in a digital format, really, and proactively push it through marketing automation as well. And then you always want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the CSAT score, or the customer satisfaction score. And marketing should run CSAT campaigns. And these CSAT campaigns can also be great triggers for understanding if at any point there is a risk of losing a customer. And another thing which is very, very important, in fact, it is important throughout the funnel, but once they have become a customer, they would love to know about you and what is your greater purpose. So just don't talk about the products. Every company has a purpose beyond revenue. So what is that purpose, and see if you can make your customers a part of that journey. Whether it is you care about your city, whether you care about a certain kind of social problem, whether as an organization you support any charities. Make sure that that messaging is part of your post purchase, because now you have a relationship with them as a customer. And there you can also run programs where you can become part of their purpose. So by donating to charities that they work with or like or follow, a great example is like from referrals. If they're giving you referrals, a certain percentage of the revenue you get, you can actually donate it to a charity of their choice. So these kind of programs, they really, really kind of connect you from a purpose perspective. And then, we'll take a little step back and say at the bottom of the funnel, maybe you did not win a deal and the prospect went to a competitor. So, but you don't stop marketing to them at that point. I think you need to run remarketing campaigns where you're talking to them about advantages that you provide versus the competitors. There's also, if they already are using somebody else and they say, hey, don't talk to me right now because I'm already, in contract for the next 6 months. I think you based on that disposition, you should be marketing to them, in terms of why they need to switch and how you can provide a better return on investment. And at a certain point, it is also very, very important to run risk-free pilots. So a lot of times it's a displacement sale. They may be already using a competitor or a different product that is serving the same purpose. So offering a risk-free pilot wherein you come and do some of the heavy lifting and run the pilot, and if it shows or proves the ROI, they make the switch. These are some ideas of how you look at the entire funnel and make sure that you have the relevant content. Okay, next, I'd like to come back to kind of one of my favorite topics, which is land every lead. We talked about the fact that you have to treat them like airplanes, and you're an air traffic controller. And an air traffic controller can't just go home and say, what, there were like 100 planes that were landing today. I landed 90 of them safely and 10 of them crashed. That is not a very good thing. So if you think about your leads like an airplane and you're an air traffic controller, this is a framework that you can use in a B2B world and make sure you have a complete airtight lead funnel. Now, I would say that probably there is no 100% airtight funnel out there. Every funnel has some level of leakage in the B2B world, but this is a framework for you to apply and see how you can minimize that leakage in your funnel. So again, we talk about the three funnels: top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. And at each stage, you need to be very careful of filtering out the leads that you don't need to waste time on. So at the top of the funnel, competitors, employees, partners, if they're not in your targeted geo area, if it is invalid data, make sure that you're not wasting any of your resources here, and just kind of eliminate them from your marketing. And then, there may be people who are not ready to purchase, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to market to them. So if they are not qualified at this point from a budget, authority, need, and time frame perspective, the typical band qualification, you still need to run nurture programs against them. They might purchase in the future. They're influencers that you want to keep in the loop and progressing through the funnel based on their interest. So these are the personas you want to really treat with white gloves. Make sure that you have programs that are taking care of them, nurture programs that are pushing them through the lead life cycle. And then obviously the bottom of the funnel, they no purchase, deferred purchase, or they purchase from a competitor. I already talked about that. Again, these are folks that could possibly buy from you in the future, and you should be running disposition-based nurtures there. One very important thing is you have to have fast tracks, both at the top of the funnel and the middle of the funnel. These fast tracks could be people who are filling a contact us form, somebody who's requesting a quote, or it is a referral lead from an existing customer. These should go straight to your best sales reps, and they should be followed upon immediately. Same thing, at the MQL level. If you see an MQL from an existing opportunity account, so an account already has an opportunity and a new person enters your sales and marketing funnel, make sure they're fast tracked to the sales reps or the bottom of the funnel. Any kind of digital body language signals that you see that need to move the lead forward right away, or it could be also based on if 10 people from the same company are coming to your website, that means they may not each one of them may not be qualified, but if there is too much traffic from one company, that does signify for you to actually move them to the bottom of the funnel and have them connected with sales right away. And then there could be event triggers. If it could be I'll give you guys an example. While I was working at Trend Micro, it's an internet security company. So anytime there was a major security breach or an identity theft at, for example, a retailer, so you've always seen credit card data being stolen or any kind of major security breach, we would make sure that all retail companies, any leads that we had from them, move to the sales team, because that's a trigger point where every retailer is thinking, is their customer data secure enough? So look for events that can help you fast track your leads from the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. Next, so we've talked a lot about the top half of the funnel till somebody becomes a customer. Now I would like to take a few minutes and walk you guys through the customer lifecycle marketing and what are the best practices around it. And I'll show you an example of a company just in a few minutes. So for a customer lifecycle marketing point of view, again, you have to define nurtures across the lifecycle, automate account renewal and upsell process. Extremely important. Everyone in the B2B space is using some sort of a marketing automation software today. You can build a lot of automated communication around your renewal upsells. Build reports to track customer engagement and their health. Most important, look at your product data as well and see how they're engaging with the product and how well it is progressing. And then setting up of predictive analytics for customer renewals and churn. So this is an example of a mobile apps analytics company that I worked with. So they, this is like post somebody becoming a customer, and they'd broken down it by 4 stages: adoption, retention, expansion, and advocacy. I won't spend too much time on going through each one of these areas in essence of time, but as you can see in the adoption phase, important to engage with them, welcome them, provide them training. In the retention phase, talk about best practices, make them join a community, and then CSAT scores and confirm that they're using the product based on the product analytics that you're getting. And then, in the expansion phase, you make sure you automate your renewal process by sending them notifications, run referral promotional emails so that they can refer you more customers, and get some product feedback in there as well. And in terms of the advocacy, that actually starts at 6 months. You start offering them enrollment into a loyalty program, and then you also provide rewards and recognitions based on any kind of gamification in terms of how they're acting on the community or providing you feedback for your product, and then running promotional offers and kind of making them part of beta launches of your product. So next we're going to actually talk about, Arpit, you want to give a little bit of a framework on how we can increase the marketing's impact on revenue?
Yeah, sure. So now that we have got some context on the customer lifecycle marketing, I think it's also very important to know the right questions, because before we look into our analytic systems or automation systems, I think sometimes questions are more important than answers. And from B2B perspective, it spans around these 4 pillars: lead generation, lead conversions, funnel velocity, and effectiveness. So um, for the lead generation pillar, these are some of the questions that we should definitely have answers for. This starts with how many leads that we have generated, and how many of them are actually qualified leads. We also should have an ability to sort of bring in some sort of segmentations and dimensions that the personas that we just talked about, are also in terms of the performance across different screens. So we are living in the multi-screen world, so accordingly we should have analytics that could answer leads across devices. How's that functioning? So for example, let's say you have a very good conversion rate in the desktop, but how about the mobile world? Generally it's broken. That's from my experience, and if you pay attention to it, create experience that a mobile device deserve, there's a whole lot of optimization opportunity there. Again, grade of or quality of leads in terms of demographics, leads by source. So there's a whole lot of multi-channel attributions and those sort of reporting analytics required. And very importantly, how everything above actually trends over time. It's not just one time we have to see, we have to continuously monitor, and as we tweak things, we have to measure those impacts. Next one is more around lead conversions. So we saw those stages. So we got to know the conversions and drop offs at each stages, and accordingly we can plan out our optimization plan. How many leads at each stages? What is the conversion ratio? What is the average time in each stage? um, and then the fast track thing that just Taran mentioned. So and then fair understanding about the benchmark against the industry average, best in class. And in addition to that, we got to have our own internal benchmarks, and this could be true for companies that have multiple products, they span around multiple geos, so they can build their own internal benchmarks. And then that sort of brings in a lot of motivation to ensure that at least within the company we are best in class for our market that we are striving for. Funnel velocity, this one, Taran, would you like to take over this one?
Sure, I can. So, my favorite metric of all time is, the lead attack time. What really that is, how quickly are your sales reps or your inside sales team, once they're handed off, how quickly are they acting on those and how quickly are they engaging with the customer? You would not believe that this is one single thing that can actually have a 30 to 40% increase in impact on converting these leads to actual sales. And a lot of times I have actually recommended that either you have a separate team or run a round robin within your sales team, but make sure that you're always tapped for these hot leads. Whenever you're fast tracking lead or whenever a sales lead, a marketing lead is becoming sales qualified, it is followed upon immediately, especially your contact us and request a quote type of form fills. So that's one metric that I think everybody should pay attention to and continue. Like, your ideal goal should be that you should be talking to them within an hour of them filling out that form. The other metrics that you need to have in place is, what is the average time from lead to revenue? How long does it take? How many days, weeks, and then make sure that you are tracking it over time and see how you can reduce that. Predictive intelligence for likely to close prioritization. There's a lot of technology available today that can help you prioritize your leads, saying, okay, these are the ones which look like are going to close more likely. So focus your energy on those and don't waste your sales team's time on opportunities that are less likely to close. Multivariate testing for results, obviously that's kind of at every stage of the funnel. But here as well, what is helping move things faster? What is achieving greater conversions? Focus on that. And then ABM engagement and analytics. If you are large enough to have an ABM program, make sure that you have analytics at the account level. And based on those triggers in terms of how much activity you are generating in those accounts or interest you're generating in those accounts, that can really, really help you with your funnel velocity as well. A great way is if you're getting a lot of traction in a certain account, make sure that you're running remarketing campaigns on LinkedIn or Facebook, targeting people that may be from the same company and the personas you want to target. That can help achieve a great funnel velocity. And then last thing that we're going to talk about is really effectiveness. So effectiveness across the funnel and effectiveness across everything that you're doing in marketing. Some questions that you must have answers to is which campaigns generate the high converting leads, which campaigns create fast moving leads, and they may seem similar, but they're not. So you have to optimize for the two, which is which is producing the highest converting leads as well as which is producing the fastest moving leads. Then you have to make sure that you have the cut based on the channels that you're using. What are the best channels for producing leads, best industries that you could be targeting, the best personas that, again, from a conversion as well as the velocity point of view. and then what are the best geos that you could be targeting. You may be targeting, let's say, North Americas, but within North Americas as well, there could be geos or major marketing areas, metropolitans that you perform really well in. Make sure you understand those and continue your efforts across. And then obviously the best tactics. Uh, is geo-targeting working better for you? Is the mobile users, just a simple stat, 55% of the worldwide web traffic today is coming from mobile devices. So don't ignore mobile in your optimization strategy. Make sure that you're providing excellent mobile experiences, because that certainly will help increase the effectiveness of your marketing. So I think with that, we are pretty much toward at the end of the webinar, and would like to Arpit, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, pretty much. We can just summarize so at each funnel stages and across all the touch points of customer journey, there are actually certain levers that we can optimize the outcomes for, and the traditional experimentation or A/B testing that helps in driving sort of a causality between the proposed changes and the impact of the outcome. And that's how it has become a key pillar to the full funnel optimization. But we need to build that thinking that helps trigger opportunities to optimize across marketing, content, channel, offers, product, personas, all the things that we talk about, uh, so that we can get maximum return. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Arpit. And I really want to thank the audience. You've been a great audience, and up to you, Whipple. If you have any questions from the audience, we would like to take them and answer them now. If you are going to be hearing the recorded version of this, our email addresses are noted here. You can send us your questions, and we'd love to answer those. So off to you, Whipple.
Hey guys, I must say that was a really good presentation. I really loved how clear view you gave of the entire B2B funnel, and along with the detailed explanation of each of those stages and the nurture stages. This is one really helpful, I should say, tech for us as well, being a B2B company. So of course, I'm taking this back to my team and going to discuss and show them the recording of the session. So yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and knowledge, Taran and Arpit.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
So we have a few questions, and I have a few questions as well. I'm very curious to ask them to you guys. So I'll take up first from our audience. So I'm sorry, guys. Uh, so Sumit and Ivana actually have pretty similar questions for you guys, and the question is regarding the economic value of the lead funnel that you discussed. So both are sort of curious. How did you calculate the economic value of a lead funnel? Is it derived from the economic value of every win?
So essentially, if we go back to that slide, it's a simple maths wherein we're basically focusing on the your annual contract value, which in example we showed $10,000. We also showed that there are like 40 deals in this example. So the total $1 here is $400,000. So now you go back to your top of the funnel, which says that 100,000 visitors actually visited your website. So this is actually telling you these visitors actually influence 400,000 revenue, and the ratio of it is, if you see, it's $4, and that's how we describe that it as economic value. You can actually easily relate this with e-commerce world, where the revenue per visitor is very straight up because conversions are happening on the site itself. And here it becomes little fuzzy, but I think if you see, there's a one-on-one relationship between your annual contract value and each of the numbers across these stages from visitors till SQL. I
Yeah,
hope.
so primarily what you're doing is you're taking the number of people in those stages that got you there, and then so taking the total revenue, which was 400K, and dividing it by 100K, that's your visitor. That's the economic value of a visitor. Then if you take the 400K and divide it by 5,000, which is the number of inquiries that you have actually generated, then the $80 represents the value of the inquiries, and so on and so forth.
Understood. Hope Sumit and Ivana were also able to understand how the values were calculated there. Great. So the second question is mine. So this is something I'm really curious to know more about, and this is sort of a broad question. So throughout our interactions with the prospects and the customers that we have, we've observed that B2B companies are not fully invested in the concept of conversion rate optimization or experience optimization because they think that it's a thing for only e-commerce companies. They think it's only for B2C companies, right? So how would you suggest they sort of get out of this mental barrier and start embracing the concept of experience optimization?
So, I would say that the from an experience optimization in today's world, we are living in a digital world, and if you are engaging with your prospects, audience, to be customers in a digital way, then there is no way you can ignore the experience that you are delivering. So, doing any kind of optimization uh, is important, offline as well. If you think about it, even if we forget about the digital world for a minute, and I know VWO lives there, but even if we talk about in general, marketing and sales, the process is all about optimization. So, you want to be at a place where your buyers will be, and if they are online, then online conversion optimization is very, very important. You cannot ignore that. It's simply it is one of the greatest levers that you can use. So you're already paying for the traffic. You're already doing everything to bring people to that landing page or the mobile app or your website. You've already spent the marketing dollars in bringing them there, and not running any conversion rate optimization there is a huge disservice to your marketing ROI.
Right, and my two suggestions would be basically you just mentioned that B2C word it becomes an obvious choice, but B2B word it is people are still a little hesitant, and the reason for it is if we tend to show people who are of highest authority, people at CEO or CFO or head of the marketing level, and you're talking about click-through rates, or even you're talking about the increase in number of form fills, that probably will not resonate very much to them. They actually need some numbers and some of these strategic metrics and KPIs that we talk about. So if we can tie that optimization effort and show the impact on those strategic metrics in long run, I think no one will deny the fact that the kind of value the overall optimization program can bring in. So start small, show the impact in some of the uh, areas where you have seen a lot of drop-offs, and then follow those frameworks that we just mentioned, and that's where you should start off. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Whipple, you may be selling to a company, but there is a person in that company or people that are going to be making those decisions. So you can never take the people out of the equation. And as long as you are marketing to people, you can, run optimizations. Nobody likes friction. People like to work with companies that they feel good about. And all this is about running those optimizations and pushing that message when they're engaging with you, and hoping that they would convert at higher rates.
Right, right. Completely agree there. Completely agree. And yeah, I think I've seen this term trending quite a lot in the social space, human to human marketing. So we have
Yeah,
heard a lot about all the other marketing terms out there, but human to human marketing is being pushed now so that you start considering the people who are you talking to not as leads but as humans. They have emotions, they have
yeah, yeah,
understandings
yeah,
and stuff. You have to take that into account now in order to create
yeah.
the enticing
Yeah,
experiences.
they have emotions, they have like, psychological needs, they have, psychological reactions when they see things. So, all that is what software like VW helps drive and deliver optimization against.
Right, agree there. So yeah, since you're talking about psychology, I uh, this is the next thing that I'm curious to know more about. Is the same person who is being treated to B2C sort of marketing tactics is also being treated to B2B marketing tactics. So on a psychological level, could you please share how does the user intent or the expectation of an experience changes for a B2B customer who himself or herself is a B2C customer in a different at a different time?
Sure. So, in the B2B world, obviously you're not making the purchase for yourself. So, most of the times people would keep kind of would put their personal preferences on the side for a minute, but at the same time, they will only consider products or services that do at least have a resonance with them. And then obviously the committee comes into the picture as well. So it is not a decision that is taken by one person. Most of the times it is taken, even if it is one person who is responsible, they have to follow a certain framework. They may also have to, like, for example, I may be wanting to buy, like, optimization software for my company, but I'm going to look at, VWO, I'm going to look at Optimizely, I might look at some other competitors as well, and then I'm going to look at the three choices, four choices that I have, and I'm going to see which one I feel is the best choice given the priorities that my company wants. Or, like, in this case, it could be my boss that I have to make sure that I make a solid presentation to. uh, but the key is that you have to be among those choices. So you may not be the only choice, but you have to be among those choices, and the process may be a little different. It may not be a single person decision. It may also be a decision that is more process oriented. So it has to go through like approval process or approval stages. But the most important thing at that time is you have to be invited to play. So you can't be ignored. And that's where, like, that human factor comes in. You have to be appealing, and you have to be providing an experience and providing the comfort that this is possibly not a wrong choice. It may not be the absolute right choice, but this is not the wrong choice, so that you can move from one stage to the other. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does make a lot of sense. Thanks for the answer there, Tarun. So I'm looking at the clock right now. I'm sorry, guys, we are a bit out of time. So I'll just take one more question here, and Taran or Arpit, whoever would want to answer, please do so. So the question is from Udesh Rana. He is basically asking where should a company draw a line when it comes to the nurturing programs, so that it does not come across as spamming the end user.
Arpit, you want to take that, or should I?
Yeah, so I think uh, the the consent of users is important, and some of the marketing automations solutions that we generally use, they have a proper system in place that sort of record that, so we definitely have to respect that. And at the same time, depending upon the responses and digital body language that we talked about, if we're keeping tab on that, basis that we have to define the workflows of our nurture programs. and most of these stuff gets automated if we have well defined workflows. So yes, one thing is of course the consent of users before we start sending out these emails and all. And the second thing is just keeping a tab of uh, their responses. Are they actually engaging with the content or so or not? If they are not interested, of course there would be certain indicators that we will capture, and accordingly we have to define the workflows.
Yep. And I think simple thing to do is have like a suppression in terms of timeline. So for example, like, my golden rule is never send an email less than 2 weeks apart. So if you are doing any kind of running any kind of nurtures, make sure that you are not sending them like, emails daily or every other day. Space them at least once a week, if not like, more than that. The other thing to do is if they are not engaging, responding at certain time, you at a certain point you have to give up and then archive those leads as well. So based on your business and how long you want to try. But I would say like if you have done like 10 to 15 touch points and you have seen zero activity, no opens, no clicks, no any other type of action, that desired action that you wanted them to take, at that point you have to decide whether you want to archive that lead and maybe revisit them in the future, or archive them for life. So but most only you have to have that. And yes, they should never ever spam. That is like the one thing I would make sure that spam doesn't work in today's world. So any marketer that thinks spam is still a way to go, I think they, especially in the B2B world, it's something that is a big no-no.
Right, right. Do not spam. So yeah, Udesh,
Yeah.
I hope that you noted that answer. It was a really good answer. Thanks, Taran and Arpit. So yeah, sorry guys, I'll take all the other questions offline. Uh, that's it for today. Thanks again, Taran and Arpit, for a really great session. I'm sure the audience must have loved it too, and they must have noted points that they definitely will go ahead and implement in their respective businesses. So thank you so much for that. And yeah,
Thank you.
everyone else, as you can see on the screen, our next session, Decoding the X in the UX, by Nadia Sko, is scheduled for 29th of January at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be again a great session. So take a screenshot of this slide, go to this link and register for the session. And also, if you want to have a look at all the other sessions that we have done so far, you can simply go to bwo.com/webcast, and the recordings of all the previous sessions is up there. So yes, we will be scheduling more insightful sessions in 2020. I will be announcing them and sending you emails as soon as the pages go live. Thanks again. Have a great day, everyone, and have a happy new year, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, the
Thank you.
audience.